Hello, and thanks for joining me for today's Bible reading for October 17th. I'm Sue, and I'm reading Mark 6 through 7 from the World English Bible. He went out from there, that's Jesus. He went out from there, he came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. When the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what is the wisdom that is given to this man, that such mighty works come about by his hands? Isn't this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Judah, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us?" So they were offended at him. That's quite a many of Jesus' siblings there, isn't it? We have James, Joseph, Judah, and Simon, plus his sisters, however many of those there were. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his own country, and among his own relatives, and in his own house." He could do no mighty works there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. He marveled because of their unbelief. He went around the villages teaching. He called to himself the 12, and began to send them out 2 by 2, and he gave them authority over unclean spirits. He commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey except a staff only, no bread, no wallet, no money in their purse, but to wear sandals, and not to put on 2 tunics. He said to them, "Whenever you enter into a house, stay there until you depart from there. Whoever will not receive you, nor hear you, as you depart from there, shake off the dust that is under your feet for a testimony against them. Assuredly, I tell you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city." They went out and preached that people should repent. They cast out many demons and anointed many with oil who were sick and healed them. King Herod heard this, for his name had become known, and he said, "John the Baptizer has risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." But others said, "He is Elijah." Others said, "He is a prophet, like one of the prophets." But Herod, when he heard this, said, "This is John whom I beheaded, for he has risen from the dead." For Herod himself had sent out and arrested John, and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother's wife, for he had married her. For John said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Herodias set herself against him and desired to kill him, but she couldn't. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a righteous and holy man, and kept him safe. When he heard him, he did many things, and he heard him gladly. Then a convenient day came, that Herod on his birthday made a supper for his nobles, the high officers, and the chief men of Galilee. When the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced, she pleased Herod and those sitting with him. The king said to the young lady, "Ask me whatever you want, and I'll give it to you." He swore to her, "Whatever you ask of me, I will give you, up to half of my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask?" She said, "The head of John the Baptizer." She came in immediately with haste to the king and asked, "I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptizer on a platter." The king was exceedingly sorry, but for the sake of his oaths and of his dinner guests, he didn't wish to refuse her. Immediately the king sent out a soldier of his guard and commanded to bring John's head, and he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head on a platter, and gave it to the young lady, and the young lady gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard this, they came and took up his corpse and laid it in a tomb. The apostles gathered themselves together to Jesus, and they told him all things whatever they had done, and whatever they had taught. He said to them, "You come apart into a deserted place and rest a while." For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. They went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. They saw them going, and many recognized him and ran there on foot from all the cities. They arrived before them and came together to him. Jesus came out, saw a great multitude, and had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. When it was late in the day, his disciples came to him and said, "This place is deserted, and it's late in the day. Send them away that they may go to surrounding country and villages and buy themselves bread. They have nothing to eat." They asked him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii?" He answered them, "You give them something to eat." They answered him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat?" He said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go see." When they knew, they said, 5 and 2 fish. He commanded them that everyone should sit down in groups on the green grass. They sat down in ranks by hundreds and by fifties. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke the loaves, and he gave to his disciples to set before them, and he divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were filled. They took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces, and also of the fish. Those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead to the other side, to Bethesda, while he himself sent the multitude away. After he had taken leave of them, he went up the mountain to pray. When evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Seeing them distressed in rowing, for the wind was contrary to them, about the 4th watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea, and he would have passed them by. But they, when they saw him walking on the sea, supposed that it was a ghost, and cried out. For they all saw him and were troubled. But he immediately spoke with them and said to them, "Cheer up, it is I. Don't be afraid." Now there's a Bible teacher, Bill Creasy, who he's a professor who's taught through the Bible for years. And I believe that series is on Audible, or it might be on... there's a free version of audiobooks called LibriVox. Anyway, Bill Creasy, and he taught that on the Sea of Galilee, at a certain watch of the night, the winds are coming from a certain direction, and the moon would be in a certain direction, so that it would have been shining on Jesus and blowing in the wind in a way that would blow his clothing and enlighten him in a way that he would look like a ghost. I thought that was interesting. I think he said he does tours in Israel, and I think he said he actually has taken people out there at night so they could see that. So it said, they supposed it was a ghost and cried out, for they saw him and were troubled. But he immediately spoke with them and said to them, "Cheer up, it is I. Don't be afraid." He got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were very amazed among themselves and marveled, for they hadn't understood about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. When they had crossed over, they came to the land at Gennesaret and moored to the shore. When they had come out of the boat, immediately the people recognized him and ran around that whole region and began to bring those who were sick on their mats to where they heard he was. Wherever he entered, into villages or into cities or into the country, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might just touch the fringe of his garment, and as many as touched him were made well. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes gathered together to him, having come from Jerusalem. Now when they saw some of the disciples eating bread with defiled, that is, unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all of the Jews don't eat unless they wash their hands and forearms, holding to the tradition of the elders. They don't eat when they come from the marketplace unless they bathe themselves, and there are many other things which they have received to hold to, washing of cups, pitchers, bronze vessels, and couches. The Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why don't your disciples walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat their bread with unwashed hands?" He answered them, "Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites? As it is written, this people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrine the commandments of men. For you set aside the commandment of God, and hold tightly to the tradition of men, the washing of pitchers and cups, and you do many other such things." He said to them, "Full well do you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and he who speaks evil of father and mother, let him be put to death. But you say, if a man tells his father or mother, whatever profit you might have received from me is Corban, that is to say, given to God, then you no longer allow him to do anything for his father or mother, making void the word of God by your tradition, which you have handed down. You do many things like this." He called all the multitude to himself and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing from outside of the man that is going into him can defile him, but the things which proceed out of the man are those that defile him. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear." When he had entered into a house, away from the multitude, his disciples asked him about the parable. He said to them, "Are you also without understanding? Don't you perceive that whatever goes into a man from the outside can't defile him, because it doesn't go into his heart, but into his stomach, and then into the latrine, making all foods clean?" Okay, so he's talking about nothing in the natural can save you, right, spiritually. Nothing. All this is going to perish away. It doesn't mean certain foods can't hurt you physically. It's saying that these foods aren't going to defile you spiritually. So it says, He said, that which proceeds out of the man that defiles the man. For from within, out of the hearts of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, sexual sins, murders, thefts, coveting, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All of these evil things come from within and defile the man. From there he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. He entered into a house and didn't want anyone to know it, but he couldn't escape notice. For a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit, having heard of him, came and fell down at his feet. Now the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by race. She begged him that he would cast out the demon of her daughter. Cast the demon out of her daughter. But Jesus said to her, let the children be filled first, for it is not appropriate to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. But she answered him, yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. He said to her, for this saying, go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter. She went away to her house and found the child having been laid on the bed with the demon gone out. Again he departed from the borders of Tyre and Sidon and came to the Sea of Galilee, through the middle of the region of Decapolis. They brought to him one who was deaf, and he had an impediment of speech. They begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him aside from the multitude privately and put his fingers in his ears and spat and touched his tongue. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, Ephrathah, that is, be opened. Immediately his ears were opened, and the impediment of the tongue was released, and he spoke clearly. He commanded them that they should tell no one, but the more he commanded them, so much the more widely they proclaimed it. They were astonished beyond measure, saying, he has done all things well. He makes even the deaf hear and the mute speak. That's it for today's reading. Thank you again for joining me. Please check the description for helpful links and details about the channel. There is an email address in there for questions, prayer requests. If you want to request a free one-year Bible, please use that. There are also links for playlists for the Bible if you want to put on this continuous play playlist and listen while you're doing your daily tasks. And so that's it. Until next time, God bless you.